Are you trying to dominate your fantasy football league? Do you want so many championship rings it's impossible to sign autographs? Well, crack open a beer, pour yourself a glass of bourbon, and settle in, because you've come to the right place. Welcome to Hammercast.
Welcome to the Double D Show, and on this special edition from the Hammercast Network, we are having another Dynasty debate. John, thanks for coming on again.
Yes, sir.
And today we're talking wide receivers. So our last Dynasty debate, we went running backs, and this Dynasty debate, we're going Chase versus Smith. And, you know, in terms of us for what we're talking about in this, we're talking about Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, and we know that may not be your guys, but these two are very hot topics right now. And who would you rather have? You have Heisman winner Devonta Smith, you have Jamar Chase, who kind of opted out, and so there's been a lot of question marks. People like to hate on guys they've seen for years and they haven't seen play in a year. So we're going to be mentioning these guys. And, you know, overall, what is your opinion of these two overall, John? Like, what do we see here?
Yeah, look, first of all, both really fun guys to watch. To me, it's not close, and I'm not going to bury the lead here. It's not close. Jamar Chase is the clear number one in this class in general, and to me, it's Jamar Chase and then everybody else. When you talk about Devonta Smith, like Devonta Smith, he's my number two right now, but like it might go down. Like I have about 85% of my grade put in, so I don't know for 100. He's really close to a Jalen Waddle for me, and there's other guys in this class that are really, really good as well. So the conversation of him being like a top 5 or top 10 pick, I don't get that. And I think, we know the athleticism. We know all the good things about him, and I'm not denying any of that. Obviously, Heisman Trophy winner, awesome player. But, I mean, the obvious part of the game, the biggest knock is something that's very real to me, his size. Like, yeah, he's tall enough, but he is a small, skinny dude. You just, like, if you go back and look at highlights, anything, and you just compare his legs, his arms to other corners and other players, like you can see it on, it's much easier in person, obviously, but you can see it on tape how much smaller he is. And that definitely bothers me a whole lot. And that's like my biggest knock about him. And it's like one thing where I just don't get, first of all, I don't really get like the big debate that I've seen on Twitter. Obviously we're kind of going along with it, but I think we both are in the same boat here. But also, like, I don't understand the Smith to 3 at the Dolphins being his ceiling. Like, I just could not imagine the Dolphins taking a guy like Smith at number 3. To me, there's too much of a big question mark in his game or in his production at the next level for me to consider him in the top 5 kind of conversation. And
yeah, we're on the same page. Like, Chase for me is my wide receiver 1, is a clear tier break, and I think Smith is actually my wide receiver 4 right now. So I have him as my wide receiver 4. And, hey, it's not based on production. He had a great year, 800 yards, 4 touchdowns, 117 catches. But it's just based on his size. And we're going to go into his film right now. We're going to look at it. And, John did a good job of cutting this up. So he's going to kind of talk about what he sees. And from what I see, too, I really like his hands. I think he can catch. I think that he does create the separation needed for the most part. But you'll notice some plays here where he kind of gets off the line. So I'm going to let John talk about his film as we put it up. But just notice and watch him play. And I think there's some telling signs that we need to see here.
Yeah, so first of all, this play right here, just a great catch back in the end zone. We know he can do that, right? Like we know he has great hands, great route running. All of those things are positive, and that's going to be positive when you have a top wide receiver. A lot of this, is positive stuff. Like right here, that was, just a beautiful route on a guy who had pretty good coverage there. When it gets, this is a great play as well. Just absolutely beats his man. If it was a better thrown ball, he probably might get a touchdown here. You get a great catch here on the sideline in the national championship game. Look, that's the great stuff. We know that. But again, look at his arms compared to the DB's arms, or look at his legs compared to the DB's legs. Look how much smaller they are. Like that has to bother you a little bit, right? You don't see a lot of guys with his body type go to the NFL and be super successful. So that's the big thing. And then, you start to talk about some other stuff right here, drives on the ball. What we'll get to is we'll also get to him getting pushed off the line a little bit. Oh, actually, before we get to that, half of his production came off design plays. That was the other thing. That was like there's a handful of plays that you can show where it's like a ton of bubble screens, a ton of drag routes, a ton of like picks that get him open, and that's fine. Like that's gonna happen. But the production is a little bit overstated. And right there on these last two clips, I know that was a penalty, but he was pushed to the boundary very, very easily. And the penalty part isn't the point. That's a bigger corner that is just bullying him to the boundary, making it harder for him. This Georgia corner does the exact same thing, just puts him out of position completely. That's going to happen in the NFL. That has to be concerned. Now, do you think you can put some more mass on him, some more weight, and maybe build that up? Yeah, I'm sure to a certain point, but I don't know how much more mass you can put on him. Like he's built a little bit different than some of, I feel like, the top guys that we're used to seeing come out. It's not a deal breaker. He's still a first round pick for me. I don't think he'll be 4 for me. I think he'll be higher than 4. So I think I'm a little bit higher than you are. But I mean, he is not like a clear cut can't miss prospect in my opinion when you talk about going to the NFL.
I think, yeah. I mean, the BMI thing is a real deal. And I think people that dismiss it just say, oh, well, BMI, that's dumb. You shouldn't look like that. No, you want to make the best judgment. And the best thing I saw today on social media was his BMI number. So here's the prospects in the last 20 years that have been drafted in the top 4 rounds that have a BMI that's under 24.5. And we expect that to be Devonta Smith. We think it's going to be under 24.5. Out of that number, we've only seen basically five top 5 finishes. So when we look at this number, here are the guys that we have seen actually finish in the top 5 in basically fantasy points. And that's Brandon Lloyd. I don't know if you remember who Brandon Lloyd is, from 2003 from Illinois. And then we have him. He finished in the top 12 one time and then 2 times in the top 24. And then Mario Manningham, Mario Manningham, old school from Michigan, my Michigan Wolverines, and then Deshaun Jackson. Those are the 3 guys that actually have finished in the top basically 24 finishes for fantasy purposes with a BMI that's under 24.5. After that, D.D. Westbrook, Josh Reynolds, I don't know if you guys remember Brandon Tate, all those guys, even guys like, Bernard Berrien, Roscoe Parrish, these guys that got drafted in the first 4 rounds, the hit rate for guys like Smith is just too low. And from my perspective, I get nervous about using high top draft capital. If I was going to get Smith in the late 1st, early 2nd, I'm okay with that probably in rookie drafts, right? But he's going to be going, top 5, top 6, depending on if Superflex or not. If it's not Superflex, he's definitely going in that range. I just get worried about the numbers, and I get worried about his BMI. I think it's a real thing, and he is a small receiver. And when you look at those numbers and you're comparing him to guys like Mario Manningham and Deshaun Jackson, I think is an outlier. So sure, there's always outliers. Could Smith be an outlier? Absolutely. But for me, I'm not wasting draft capital on a guy like Smith when I can get a guy like Chase, or I can get a guy like even Terrace Marshall, or a guy that I really, really like, Waddle. Waddle, I think, is going to be the better prospect, and to me. So that's where I am at. Then the BMI thing is a real deal, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I didn't realize those numbers, but that is a perfect way to surmise what I was trying to say with the film, and you put it way better than I did. So I absolutely love that. I 100% agree. You're right. Like you talk about like top 5 pick in a rookie draft. To me, it feels like Devonta Smith has the biggest bust potential of all the other guys that you're drafting. Like I'll include Etienne and Harris if you're just talking about top playmaking players. Yeah, he's got to be scary, and I think a team is going to take a chance on him. You mentioned Deshaun Jackson. I don't see Deshaun Jackson when I watch Devonta Smith. Like, I don't think that's his game per se. At least it wasn't in college. So if that's what he can be, hey, awesome. But you're taking a chance that he's not, and I absolutely agree. That the perfect way to say it. Do you want to segue into Ja'Marr Chase and talk about why he is, at least in my opinion, a legit contender for 101 in rookie drafts and all of those other things? Yeah,
no, Ja'Marr is my guy. So 6 foot 208. I think people forget what Ja'Marr did. His record-setting year, his sophomore year, essentially, basically when he came out. He opted out because of COVID issues. He had 1,700 yards, 20 touchdowns. He was absolutely dominant, and he was better than Justin Jefferson. So all you Justin Jefferson stands out there, Ja'Marr was better. Ja'Marr, to me, is my number 1 skill player in a rookie draft. So in Superflex, I'm taking him with the 103 if he falls to 103 to me. If he falls to 104, I'm taking Ja'Marr Chase. Now, here's some reasons why. I'll have John kind of look at the film. We're going to go over it too. But the one thing that I always felt that he did the best was he was able to track the ball. he does an excellent job using his body and getting up at the catch point, and his ability to use his hands to get him open, which is an underrated skill for receivers, is one of the best I've seen in college. He is my absolute favorite wide receiver I've seen in the entire time. I'm old, man, and he is one of my favorite receiving prospects. So let's take a look at his film.
So right here, you saw it at the top of the screen. I think it's going to show again there. Just beating his man off the line while he did. So a lot of these first couple of clips, just physicality off the line. Like, we know the explosiveness and athleticism, but the thing that surprised me when watching it was like, man, this dude is beating people off line. The physicality from a guy who's a little smaller but a thicker build kind of surprised me a little bit. Great run after catch ability. I mean, just can do it all. You mentioned the Justin Jefferson thing. You go back and watch the 2019 film of LSU, which I highly recommend. It's just a ton of fun, a ton of studs all over the field. He is clearly the best skill position player on that team, and that team had a lot of dudes. I mean, you're talking about Jamar Chase, you're talking about Justin Jefferson, who's a baller, right? Like an absolute baller in the NFL, and I was a huge fan of Justin Jefferson coming out. Jamar Chase is better, and it's really not that close. Like that's the difference what we're talking about. And it's like, you compare that to Devonta Smith last year, and I know he grew a lot from last year to this year, but Devonta Smith last year, he wasn't better than the other top guys. He wasn't like far and away better than Ruggs or even
Judy.
Yeah, like you didn't get that sense from him. Jamar Chase has been the dude. You want to go down. Look, I don't really have a flaw for his game. The combination of size, speed, physicality, it really is. You mentioned it's unlike any receiver that I've seen. And listen, I haven't been doing this for that long, but this is the highest graded skill player that I have ever graded, period. And I've seriously been doing this for about 3 years, and then I've, casually been doing it for another 5, before that. But it's not close. He is an absolute baller. I think he is in real contention for that number 3 spot to the Dolphins. And look, I'm a Dolphins fan, and I'm a draft value guy. So and I'm talking about real life just for a second. Draft value guy, meaning I don't want to take the position that's really deep in the class just because he's really good. I'd rather, take the wide receiver in the second round that's going to be better. But I don't care. I'm throwing that out the window for Jamar Chase. I would be perfectly happy to take the top dude, because I think he is the top dude in this class. I don't see him missing. I don't see how he misses. And the one complaint that you can get, the only complaint that's out there, he didn't play this year. First of all, he showed everything he needed to show. The only thing that could have happened is he could have brought his stock down. So you can't blame the player for making a business decision. Second of all, we know he went to camp for a couple of weeks. I guarantee you, he went to saw that LSU team without some of the top dogs that he had in 2019 and said, "Yeah, this isn't going to be fun. I'm good." Deuces. The only question mark, which teams are going to figure out, and if he has a huge, draft day fall, we'll probably know, was he sitting around playing Oreos or eating Oreos for the past year? It's the only thing. If he's been on top of his physicality or his body. Yeah, he's a top guy, and I just don't even think it's close.
And he had a college dominator rating of 33%. Okay, so if you're looking at it in playerprofile.com, definitely look at that. His breakout age was 19.5. So all my analytics guys, they love that. I mean, he had that breakout age that you're looking for. His target share was 19%. He was absolutely phenomenal on targets that he received. But I think also when we're talking about Jamar, and I have a really good friend, his name's Felix Sharp, and he was talking about it today. And he was asking, I was looking at it, and he was saying, when they don't play press coverage against him, do you think he can get open? And I think when you're watching his tape, I think he'll excel exceptionally well at press coverage. When they did play off of him a bit, I think that he was so used to press coverage that you can tell he was kind of okay, now what do I do? And I think that's a coaching thing more than it is he can't do it. So I expect him to be able to excel off press coverage. But when you watch him, and when I scouted him, and again, I've been doing this a lot longer, so I appreciate you shouting me out like that. But when I watches him, he has that intangibles. Me and Ben Ebby would talk about this with me, and we talked about intangibles. He has that. His release is what I like. His release is what I need to see. He has that. He has intangibles. He knows when he's open. He fights for contested balls. He's a gamer. He's one of those guys that's going to play football. And I know that's old school. Oh, he's a football player, but he does all the things that you like to see from a receiver. And he doesn't really, his 50-50 balls, he wins. He has great ball tracking. He's an eye discipline. He doesn't necessarily rush his routes. He doesn't rush what he's looking for, and he can get off the line. And I think that the other little concerns will come with coaching. And I think especially this year, and even though he took the year off, I guarantee you he's working out. Trust me, I follow him on a lot of social media. He's been working out. That actually might help. That might have actually helped his route running and his ability and his footwork that we see. So for me, Jamar Chase is that guy. And if you're trying to convince yourself that he's not that guy, I think you're just trying too hard. I think he's the clear-cut wide receiver one. And I think that's the guy that you need to grab in your drafts. And I saw him fall. I did a rookie draft, and he fell to 107 to me. And so it's happening. And it's a super flex league. So you're going to have some talent fall. But it's happening. It is happening. And Pitts went before him in a non-tight end premium league. So you're going to be able to get this value now. And you should be thankful that he's fallen down a little bit. And you're going to hear Rondale Moore. You're going to hear some of these guys. Rashad Bateman, I heard. I'm still a Jamar Chase guy based on his player profile, based on his dominator rating, based on his breakout age, based on his ability on the field and what he was able to put up at LSU. I'm a Jamar Chase guy.
Yeah. So I want to go back to my scouting notebook, and the way I do this is I break down every single skill, and I'm not going to put it on the screen, but it's just a lot of X's and notes and everything like that. But when you talk about a guy who literally only has 2 negative things on the entire scouting notebook. This is every single play and every major category of the game. I had 2 notes on release where you're right. When he wasn't impressed, there was a couple things. So that was a great point. I think it's very minor. First of all, I think you're picking hairs here. This is not like a major thing that you would talk about for most any other player, but you kind of run out of negatives to talk about with him. So you got to bring that up. And then one catch where I was like, man, I thought he could have made that catch, which out of the 5 or 6 games that I watched him. So we're talking about a dude who, to me, you mentioned Rondale Moore and Bateman, like, that is just so far like 2 sides of this whole play. Like, those guys can be good in the NFL and everything, but like, we're talking about a dude who can be elite. Like, I compared him a combination of Odell Beckham and Julio Jones. Like, that was my comp for him. Like, just like if you put those 2 players in a blender, somehow you're gonna get like a Jamar Chase, and that is a huge compliment. Maybe bold, I don't know, but like I couldn't agree more, man. Like, he's the complete package. You said 7 in a superflex. I understand superflex is different. I think superflex you would still consider taking at 1 or 2. I mean, like, that's how ridiculous we're talking about is right now.
Yeah, I'm taking him at 3, 4 in that category after the quarterbacks. But no, for sure, I'm doing that. Chase is my guy. You got to draft him where his value is at right now. If he goes to a team, I saw him mocked. If he goes to the Dolphins, that'd be fine with me. I saw him get mocked, like maybe he fell, and I even saw where the Chargers grabbed him. That would be my ideal. Like, oh my God, I'm going to fall in love even more. So those are the areas. And as far as Smith goes, the reason why we're talking about Chase and Smith is because these are 2 kind of for the other people out there, not everybody that's involved in this. We're thinking about these guys. I'm just taking the guy with less risk, with a guy that I know will have a better breakout and can actually be a top receiver in this draft. And this receiving class is good, but I have found that there's more wide receiver twos in this draft than there are going to be wide receiver ones. And I think Chase can be that perennial wide receiver 1. That's why I want Chase.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
Hey, let us know what you think. In the comment section below on YouTube, please if you're hearing this, tell us what you think. We don't mind debate. We like you guys to tell us if we're wrong. Let us know, and we'll come back and you tell us what you think, whether you're taking Chase or Smith in your rookie drafts. John, thanks for coming on today.
Peace. Yeah.
And we'll see you guys later. Let us know.
Appreciate it.
Did you get all that? If not, make sure you head over to Hammercast.com, subscribe, and join the Hammer Nation. Until next time, keep grinding.